On this entry of the STEM journals, green energy bugs, fusing brains, and the future of electronics is light. Author, musician, meteorite hunter, adventurer. I've led an eventful life. Now I'm exploring exciting STEM careers and recording what I find in the STEM journals.
Our next exhibit I'm going to show you is Dinosaur Mountain, where we actually bring to life the great dinosaurs and other animals of the Mesozoic. On the upper level, we see the ferocious Tyrannosaurus rex and other dinosaurs that roamed the Southwest during the Cretaceous. Many scientists believe that an impact of an asteroid on the Earth about 66 million years ago created a global dust cloud that plunged the planet into darkness and made photosynthesis impossible, wiping out over 75% of Earth's animal and plant species.
It amazes me that the most powerful creatures that ever lived on our planet were reduced to fossils because the lights were switched off. While it's mind-blowing that the absence of light for just a matter of months had such a huge impact on the Earth's history, it makes me curious how something as critical as light might shape our planet's future. STEM Journal, personal entry. We humans rely on fossil fuels for almost all of our energy needs. But one day, all of those fossil fuels will be used up. And that's why I'm here at ASU, where there's a team of researchers working on a new biofuel that's produced by teeny creatures who use photosynthesis for energy. Wim, I'm familiar with the idea of photosynthesis. Plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to produce sugars, carbohydrates. You're working with photosynthesis that's not in plants.
Our photosynthesis is just the same process as you see happen here in plants, but it's happening in little critters, cyanobacteria. Bacteria always do photosynthesis. They live in order to make more of themselves. What we want to do is have them make stuff for us. So what we are doing, we have to give them genes. We have to transform them with pieces of DNA that we have them incorporate into their own genome. And in that way, they can make all kinds of things for us, including fatty acids that they excrete, that we can use for fuel. They can make rubber compounds. They can make all kinds of things.
I find it miraculous. This is one of the simplest life forms on the planet. It occurs almost everywhere. It's a kind of universal production machine. You can just program it to make the things that you need.
Exactly right.
Your cyanobacteria are really little factories producing laurate that could be a fuel source. And I've seen all different sized flasks around the lab with pipes and tubes and all kinds of stuff.
This is kind of like a little home that we have for our little factories to make them comfortable. We provide them with some glucose, we provide them with nutrients, we provide them with CO2 and light. From that stage, we go to the starter flask, and it'll start producing laurate.
Let's talk about the farm analogy. Farmers like to keep their cows happy and healthy because they will then produce milk for many years, and we don't want to kill the cow to get the milk out. And the same is true for your cyanobacteria. They will keep producing as long as the laurate is moved away. Is that correct?
That is right. So they not only make it, they also excrete it. It goes into the culture medium that they are in. It's kind of the milk that you're harvesting. The cells stay happy, they get light, they continue to photosynthesize.
You see this white band here, you can actually see some bits precipitated out. This shows that it's a happy flask, lots of laurate growing in there. Our goal right now is about 10 milligrams per liter per day.
But it's a pretty small amount. That might power a little toy car. How can you extrapolate this process to a scale where it could actually make a difference in fuel consumption?
Well, the estimates right now are saying roughly 1/3 of Arizona could produce enough liquid fuel to power all of the United States liquid gasoline needs.
The work that you and Wim are doing here has the potential to change the world.
Yeah.
This is really extraordinary. What was your career path? What was the wow factor for you? How did you get to this lab to be doing this groundbreaking work?
Well, I got my master's degree in sustainability, and I was really interested in finding out what the most promising renewable energies are and renewable fuels. And I found that cyanos and algae were really the leaders. And this is one of these products that is green. We're sequestering carbon out of the atmosphere. You know, we can also potentially do some water purification associated with it, so it has a lot of pros.
This is the laurate being collected in this big tube here. So this PBR is much larger than any of the flasks that we saw in the lab downstairs. The science is here. The application is in the developmental stage. So this means my young STEM reporters who are interested in seeing this technology grow could really get involved and within their lifetimes see abundant, cheap, clean fuel.
Oh yeah, not only that, they might be part of making it happen. As the years go by, this will all be a lot more efficient, a lot more cost effective, and in the long term can be a real player.
You're telling me that it's going to be better in the future, and I absolutely believe you. But I'm telling you that you're doing it now. You're making fuel. Your cyanobacteria is making fuel right there.
Oh yeah.
And that gives us all hope for the future. Coming up on the STEM journals, science fiction meets science fact with flexible electronics being developed at ASU. I'm here at ASU's Flexible Display Center, and as a lifetime science fiction enthusiast, I'm thrilled and amazed to discover that they're building paper-thin electronic displays here. It's a great example of ideas that were once dreamt up by science fiction writers being turned into reality.
So Geoff, we're in the demo room here where we've got a number of examples of our electrophoretic displays. That's these black and white displays made with e-ink on our flexible electronic backplanes. And we've got a variety of application ideas that we've worked out here. One of the things we did was integrate one into a rapid prototyping mock-up of a sleeve-mounted communication unit.
I want this.
You want one of those, do you?
Yes, I do. I mean, theoretically, my STEM journal tablet that I use for making my entries
Absolutely.
could become wrist-mounted like this.
But yeah, it could perform all the functions of any of your electronic information devices, but be lightweight, work on not many batteries, and be out of the way.
I could call in an airstrike right now.
These black and white displays can be made color by putting a color filter array over them. To get color displays, we actually moved to a different display technology that we call OLED. And I'm going to take you downstairs and show you that now. So there it is, Geoff, the world's thinnest TV.
That's amazing.
You like that one?
Okay, it's one thing to
Hear about
think
it.
about it, and it's another thing to actually see it on and working.
Yep, they're very cool.
You're going to give me a take-home sample of this, right, to play with?
Oh, absolutely. It'll only
knew.
cost you $25,000. I'm sure you can afford it.
Organic light-emitting display. What does it mean?
The thing that's creating the image here are a bunch of small devices whose active bit is a stack of organic materials, things made out of chemicals just like you and me, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. And those materials, when you pass current through them, glow. And the color of the glow depends in detail on the chemistry, and then address it with all this electronics, and presto, a display.
It's an organic television that you can roll up.
That's right.
What are the little spots?
So this is a work in progress. No one's ever done this before. And so those are basically mistakes in the manufacturing process.
You make mistakes?
We do. If you don't make mistakes, you're not doing it right.
This technology is just such a game changer, both scientifically and for entertainment purposes.
We've got this new feature in a display technology, and now the world's going to figure it out. Some compelling application that uses thinness, lightness, mechanical robustness to put a display in a place, in a shape that you've never thought of before is going to turn up. And what you don't realize, Geoff, is that this is actually producing a lot of light in order to be visible in ordinary room lighting. If we were to shut the lights off, for example, you see how much brighter the display is.
Oh, it's dazzling. It's so rich.
That's right. And in fact, people are thinking seriously about using this technology as a lighting source. So now we can think about lights that we mount on the walls as opposed to bulbs or other kinds of units producing the light that lights the spaces that we live in.
In order to develop something as unique and original as this, you've had to attack it from a lot of different angles and combine different scientific disciplines.
That's exactly right. You'll find that some of the most interesting questions in science and technology today are actually at the edges between different disciplines. So the word interdisciplinary gets used a lot, and those are a lot of the biggest research programs today are at the place where chemistry and physics meet, or where biology and engineering meet.
Nick, this is clearly very cutting-edge technology. What will be the challenges of getting it into the marketplace?
Well, that last 5% is always the hardest 5%, right? Ultimately, what this enables is information everywhere. We've got more and more electronics, more and more wireless infrastructure, but at the end of the day, human beings communicate visually. This allows you to integrate displays with clothing, with walls, with just about anything. Whether it's an e-reader or a wrist-mounted information terminal or a Dick Tracy watch, that'll have the communications and the display buffer and the other information in it. We don't just have to attach the flexible electronics to display media. We can attach it to things that communicate with this environment in a variety of ways. Either things that are in the air or something that's on your skin. Every time you touch your electronics, it takes a snapshot of your state of health. We're at the very early stages of what we can do with this technology.
So the applications for this are almost limitless. It's kind of a case of, well, how many ideas can we come up with?
You said it yourself. It starts with science fiction, and how far will your imagination take you?
I think it's taking you very far. It's most impressive. It's going to be amazing now to watch science fiction movies and go, no, I've seen technology better than that in real life.
Still ahead on the STEM journals, we talk neuroscience and the tiny on-off switches inside our brains.
Our sun, of course, is a constant source of light, artificial light that we use every day.
Are flickering on and off 60 times per second. I'm visiting with neuroscientist Dr. Stephen Macknik, and he's going to explain to me how our brains trick us into thinking that these flickering artificial lights are on all the time. And even more interesting, the work being done by his lab could possibly save us billions of dollars in energy costs.
So our clever brains are playing a significant magic trick on us. And as a neuroscientist, that's the part that really interests you.
Yes, exactly. So flicker is a type of illusion, which means basically that the physical reality doesn't match the perception. Flicker fusion, where flickering lights don't look like they're flickering, is an illusion. You have illusions in other sensory systems with your touch and with your hearing, and you also have illusions in your cognition as well. And that's what a magic trick is. The physical reality doesn't match the perception. And we talk about all those kinds of things in our book, Sleights of Mind. We can actually use this to investigate the parts of the brain that create our consciousness or not, because presumably the areas that create our consciousness don't see the flicker, whereas parts of the brain that do see the flicker aren't conscious, or else we would see the flicker. So you're doing the actual experiment that we did with our human subjects to measure how brightness works in the brain as a function of time.
I was intrigued, wondering how you could devise an experiment to measure what we think is brighter but actually isn't.
It's based on the idea that we understand how contrast works. And when things are high contrast, like one of those blobs in each of the trials you're doing, it's very easy to see. When it's low contrast, it's dimmer. But what we don't understand as well is how the duration of the stimulus changes this. The way that lights flicker now is based on a sinusoidal wave in our power grid. And that means that it's on half the time and it's off half the time. And what we're finding is that as the duration increases of a stimulus, it becomes brighter and then it becomes dimmer again. So there's a sweet spot where we can optimize the brightness of stimuli to the human brain.
So in other words, by altering the duration of the on period of a flickering light source, we humans think we're seeing a brighter light, but we're actually not.
Exactly.
Stephen, while the work you're doing in the Human Physiology Lab has some practical applications, it's also, pardon the pun, shedding light on some of the big questions. What is consciousness, and how do we exist in this world that we effectively create around us? And those are the questions that originally attracted you to neuroscience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So My interest in science in general was a very selfish interest, and I think it's probably true for most scientists, that we want to know what we are, and we want to know how we fit in the universe. And so it's really great that some of the work that I'm doing ends up having ramifications that are useful, that can be applied to lighting, that can be applied to other aspects of life.
And as an added bonus, the work that you're doing with flicker fusion may actually lead to a more efficient artificial lighting source that could conceivably save us billions of dollars each year.
Yeah, it is possible. So basically, because we found that lighting can be optimized to the temporal dynamics of the human brain, then you can actually hit the sweet spot of those temporal dynamics so that the brain responds more strongly to the same brightness of light. And you basically end up needing fewer photons to see the same brightness, and those photons cost money to make. So we basically end up saving money by optimizing light to the human brain.
So how specifically can altering the temporal waveform help us build a more efficient light source?
Well, think of it kind of like a swing set. When you push someone on a swing, there's a right time to do it. So the swing goes forward, it comes back. On their way forward again, you push them, and that's the perfect time to do it, because if you go and you push them with the same amount of effort while they're coming down back towards you, you're going to work against yourself as you do that. If we optimize lighting to how the brain actually works in terms of temporal dynamics and time, we'll be more like pushing the swing at the optimal time.
Okay, Geoff, okay. I think Dr. Macknik's theory is starting to make sense now. You can stop pushing.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Okay, well, it's probably a good thing anyway. I think, really, you're the one who should be pushing me. After all, I'm the one who's been doing all the work. In fact, I think it's about time you had your own assignment. What do you think?
I'm up for the challenge.
Excellent. I want you to go to ASU's Light Works, where they're doing some very interesting light-inspired research. And let me know what you find.
Geoff has already dug up some pretty impressive research. Biofuels, neuroscience, and that really awesome flexible display. So I'm going to meet with Dr. Gary Dirks to find out what ASU's Lightworks is all about. Dr. Dirks, what is so important about light?
Well, light really forms the energy foundation that enables life to exist on Earth. It drives the wind, it drives rain, but light has also been captured by ancient plants, algae that forms oil and gas, and trees and that sort of thing that form coal. So it really forms the energy foundation for the world. But that's not the only thing light is good for. These things, your cell phones, they communicate using light. We also find light in things like your CD player. The way that you get the data off of your CD player is with a laser, light. It is really what powers a modern society and what enables us to live the kind of lives that we do.
I've noticed there are solar panels all over ASU's campuses, but Lightworks goes beyond that.
It does. We're very interested in solar electricity, but we're also interested in transportation fuel from the sun. We're very interested in working with commercial partners, and of course, we're an educational institution. We like to teach students.
So you're working on algae-based biofuel, which is different than the one Geoff logged into a STEM journal. I'm gonna have to send him over here to check it out. So tell me some of the research you're working on.
Our research includes fuels, which is also the case for cyanobacteria, but we're also very interested in how algae can be used as food supplements, nutraceuticals, and then a whole range of possibilities with respect to industrially interesting chemicals and byproducts. So yes, fuel, but other things as well.
Awesome. So Lightworks has forged partnerships with large companies. Can you tell me how those relationships benefit the university and its students?
There's quite a number of ways that we benefit from these kinds of relationships with industrial partners. The companies will sometimes provide funding so that we can do the research together with them. But there's several other ways that we benefit that are very important. In particular, internships for our students, and then when they graduate, perhaps get jobs with these companies. There's also a big economic benefit, because if we help these companies to be more competitive, they have economic success, they do better, and it creates jobs and it creates wealth for the community.
So you mentioned about jobs earlier, and I'm not too sure what I want to do with my career. What opportunities does Lightworks provide?
Lightworks provides quite a number of opportunities for students. Certainly the research that we do trains students to work in research laboratories, but we encourage our students to build relationships with many other disciplines like law and business and humanities. So there's possibilities for them to expand and go beyond just the research laboratory. And in fact, that's what I did in my own career. I did a PhD in chemistry, but then when I went to work for BP, I did some work in the laboratory. And when I retired, I was president of BP China and BP Asia Pacific region. And I had a lot of fun doing it.
It seems that there's plenty of opportunity for people like me who don't know which career they want to follow. The research here is pretty cool. I'm going to go check out some more information.
Light is a mystery to most people. What can you do if you study light? You become a microbiologist, a neuroscientist, and electrical engineer. So what do you need to study if you want to do this? Well, keep an eye on mathematics and physics, all of your sciences. You could be on the forefront of a brave new frontier. Ask a teacher. It all starts in a classroom.
On the next entry of the STEM Journals, I reveal novel and innovative projects to explore the galaxy for planets outside our solar system.